Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club, where we talk about movies. So we're gonna talk about some movies.
Yeah, we're talking about Scream 3 today. We're keeping up with the franchise countdown.
We're doing the retro. We're getting hyped. Man, the hype is misplaced in this movie.
I told you, I tried to warn you about Scream 3. It's not the best of the bunch.
No, not even close.
But it's a wild ride.
Yeah, this is definitely the one that feels the most non-Scream compared to the other two.
Yeah.
Also, this is a question. When was the last time you saw this? Or when was the first time? You know, this is a retrospective, kind of.
Jeez. I actually don't know the first time I saw this. I know the first time I saw it was on TV. So it must have been early 2000s.
Well, this came out in the year 2000, so I wasn't sure if you were, able to see it in a theater or not.
No. I haven't seen any of the Scream movies in a theater. Scream 5 is going to be the first movie of the Scream franchise that I see in a theater.
Really?
Yeah, everything else has been on TV or VHS. Yes, because we watched VHS back in the day.
Jesus Christ. All right. So, for me, famously, I guess not so. This was a TNT movie. I saw it only on television, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Whenever I saw the original Scream movies. Because,
Because usually they marathon them when they're on.
It was probably a Halloween season thing, because that's usually what happens. They show Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3. It was that's kind of what was just on during Halloween, so we got the rights for it. But yeah, I vaguely remembered one or two things about this movie, and I was really surprised that the few things I remembered are the worst parts about this movie, because this movie is really not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's not very good.
Yeah, it's not terrible, it's not fantastic, it's just kind of in the middle.
I mean, I wouldn't say in the middle. It's just on the bad side of the middle. It's it's not good. I don't think you could call this a good movie in any sense.
That's why I call it a fun movie. Because
that's Boo's thing, it's just I don't want to disparage anybody, I might still get work after this.
Well, that and, if you're going to work your way through the franchise, you got to watch it all the way through.
Yeah.
And, while it doesn't really feel like the first few Scream movies we have, because there's a lot more satire and comedy to it.
It approaches self-parody.
Yeah, so it kind of feels like a scary movie, a little bit.
Which, okay, that's another thing, because we had Scream 1 and Scream 2. The distance between those two movies is a year. We didn't have the saturation of all the Scream copycat movies. I know what you did last summer, Urban Legends. That kind of just permeated the horror slasher genre.
Yeah.
And with this one, this comes out in 2000. Scream 2 came out, I think, in 97?
97.
So in between that time, we had the Scary Movie franchise come out. We had House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts, the Dark Castle remake movies. We had, the horror movie genre and just transformed to being just responses or things about the Scream franchise in one sense or the other. Everything had this kind of tongue-in-cheek quality or meta quality, self-referential thing to it. Then with Scary Movie, it was just pure self-parody. Or it's just pure parody.
It's pure parody.
And with this one, I'm is this Scream 3 trying to respond to the self-parody stuff by self-parodying itself?
Well, I think it would have been a different story because Kevin Williamson wasn't a part of this project. So we didn't have a Kevin Williamson script, even though he left a treatment for the new screenwriter to, take his notes, and that's kind of what Wes Craven was thinking, that this guy was going to follow in Kevin's footsteps and, this beat hit that beat, and he didn't. He completely hit it out of, left field and was just what? We're doing what now?
Well, in defense of the screenwriter, I believe the screenwriter is Aaron Kruger.
Yeah.
In his defense, Williamson's treatment was something he cranked out over a weekend, I believe, or 2 weeks. It was not a well-developed one. It was, oh, you want to do a third one? Okay, give me a minute and I'll write something for you.
Yeah.
Because it involved this, I know this much, it involved this weird, Scream fan club cult aspect to it.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be something really weird.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a thing where at least one of the scenes was someone from this fan club breaks into Sydney's house during a get-together with her and her friends. he shows up in costume and goes after them, and Sydney ends up killing this person who is, technically innocent, but at the same time...
broke into her house.
Broke into her house. You're going after a survivor of murders and attacks, and it's just like, yeah, you don't do that.
You're kind of playing with your own life at that point.
Yeah, and this kind of storyline was revisited in the Scream TV series, so it still got to play out in its own way, but this movie is very different. It's very Hollywood.
Yeah, it's the most expensive Scream film to date.
Yeah.
This movie cost $40 million to make. Mm-hmm. That's more than Scream 1 and 2's budgets combined.
Yeah.
And this also looks like the cheapest one. Like, don't get me wrong, Wes Craven is not a flashy director. He's not the guy who's gonna like, we're gonna do this 8-minute long take that goes through like the whole house, and we're gonna do these things. He comes from like the exploitation 70s, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, we're just gonna get it down. Stay stationary, lock it down, shoot it, get out.
Yeah.
He's not doing a bunch of flashy shit. But this actually looks kind of like a TV production. Mm-hmm. And also with, like, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, all the characters we have in here, the main cast.
Yeah.
They look like they're coming for, like, a TV cameo kind of thing. Because their costumes never changed throughout the movie. They always look like they're just, hey, I just came off my other gig. We're going to shoot this scene real quick.
Funny you say that, because Courtney Cox and David Arquette were actually coming off their honeymoon into this movie, so that's why they're a little on the tan side, because they were just like, okay, cool, we're going to cut our honeymoon because we got to go film.
See, that's another thing, because David Arquette and Courtney Cox, it feels like they're out of place in this Hollywood world.
Yeah.
And it might be the other thing where I think, don't get me wrong, Courtney Cox, I imagine she's a very nice lady, but she does not look good in this movie.
It's the bangs.
Yes. Oh my god, I didn't want to say anything.
No, it's, that meme is used everywhere. Courtney Cox even made fun of it. I think this past Halloween, she bought a wig with, the bangs.
The baby bangs.
Yeah, just to kind of show that, haha, I think it's funny too. But the bangs were actually David Arquette's idea. He's like, you should go for a Betty Page kind of short bangs, and then they cut her bangs, and then they just
They didn't realize she's a pretty lady, but she has a very large forehead where short bangs does not.
Yeah, but
well.
There's short bangs, and then there's hardly any bangs there. It's just stray hairs that are popping out.
Yeah,
so those weren't really bangs.
Yeah, that's a thing. She doesn't look, top notch. She doesn't look like Gale Weathers, reporter at large. David Arquette looks like he's wearing the same costume from Scream 2. All of his, he looks kind of shabby, which I guess is the point, Dewey's supposed to look kind of oh shucks,
But he's got his hair slicked back, the mustache is a little bit more pencil thin, and it's just is this Hollywood Dewey?
Yeah, it kind of looks like somebody was like, oh, we're gonna do Dewey from memory, or somebody's gonna do their Dewey cosplay, but they still want to look good after.
Yeah.
And then Nev Campbell, pretty girl.
Yeah.
Did you know that she's wearing a wig?
Yes.
Because I noticed that right away, and I couldn't.
Yeah, she was shooting a movie.
It.
She was shooting a movie at the same time, and she had to cut her hair for the role, so they had to stick her in a wig for this movie. And not only, the wig and the hair, they also had her for 20 days.
Yeah, that caused a lot of rewrites, and basically, I think that the biggest problem with this movie, across the board, there's logistical things, some of the actors look like they didn't have enough time in makeup, or people were just look, we just need to get this movie done, we'll just wing it on the day. The biggest problem here is the script feels so lackluster, so weird. Things are choppy all over the place. Some scenes don't flow into the other ones. The logic of how the killer works and how the climax pays off doesn't really operate, and it's weird because it's probably because Kevin Williamson didn't write it.
Yeah. It's anytime two collaborators come together, they make, something really great, and one of them can't be there, automatically you feel it. You feel that there is just a shift, there is something not quite right. I mean, it's still an enjoyable movie to watch because the comedy is really heavy in this movie.
Yeah, but the comedy's not good.
No, it's not good, but it's just, I like
how Boo's it's so enjoyable to watch, the comedy in this movie. Comedy's not good. I know, it's really bad, but it's still enjoyable to watch bad comedy.
Yeah, it's funny to, watch some of the scenes and how they play out. I don't know.
It's one of those things where you're already in the camp of, it's a Scream movie, so I'm going to like it anyway.
Exactly.
It's just, this is your least favorite Scream movie.
Yeah, this is my least favorite.
Yeah, see, I'm over, because I don't have the hard-line, love of the Scream franchise. I enjoy the first one. The second one, I might have come down a little hard on it in the last one, but overall, I think the second one's actually a pretty enjoyable slasher movie. Like, it is a fun movie.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. The second Scream movie is very fun.
Yeah.
This third one, it feels like somebody got told a really funny joke and has been trying to tell it to everyone they know and just doesn't understand why the joke's funny.
Yeah.
And that feels like the entire, script and the story. It's like, oh, I'm going to make a Kevin Williamson style Scream film because he can't be here, but I can just do a Scream-alike movie. It'll be fine.
And we're going to go full Hollywood.
Full Hollywood, full meta. This movie is too meta. It is to the point of self-parody. It also, it's like the world it takes place in, because in Woodsboro in the first two, the real world, quote unquote, makes sense. You can see this world as an operating, functioning thing.
In the first movie, she is a high school student, she is home. Second movie, she is in college, she's trying to kind of move past from the events of the first movie and kind of make a life for herself. This one is just, we're thrown into the sound stages of Hollywood.
Yeah, which is already so paradoxically, untrue and falsified and fake, but... And also, okay, elephant in the room, fucking Jay and Silent Bob show up in this movie.
I thought you would have loved that.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I like seeing Jay and Silent Bob show up, but I'm like, why the fuck are they in a Scream movie? I know why they're in a Scream movie, because producers and whatever, but it breaks tonality, it completely puts me in the mindset that, oh, this movie isn't... the reality of this world doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Nothing is real here. So
I think it's hilarious that that Jay calls Courtney Cox Connie Chung.
And then she flips him off.
Yeah, and I was just I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's kind of funny.
yeah. But that's the thing. The world this movie establishes is one that is foreign to the other two. So that's why this feels so off the deep end. This feels so different than than the last two. It's kind of in the league of its own. But with that, do you think it's time for us to actually talk about the movie?
Yeah, I think
Have we done enough about the preamble?
Yeah, I think we actually need to get into what happens.
Yes. So, do you want to start us off?
I think you should, because I think from what you had said earlier, you were a fan, but not a fan of the opener of this movie.
Yeah, because the opening of this movie, we have Cotton Weary. He's now the talk show host extraordinaire. He's basically Jerry Springer.
Yes.
And he's hosted the show 100% Cotton.
Which you love.
The name 100% Cotton, banging fucking title for your talk show. Also, that Miami Vice white suit could only be better if Cotton had just a pile of cocaine. But he's driving home, is in LA traffic. LA traffic fucking sucks, and he gets a call from it's the killer. He's in your house and he's gonna kill your girlfriend. Ooh.
So what does Cotton do? Bashes some cars and turns around.
Yeah, exactly.
On the freeway.
I think goes on Hollywood Boulevard, swerving into stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, because watching the movie, I'm like, oh, they're gonna use LA.
Yeah.
Because the opening image is big Hollywood sign, helicopter flying through the LA skyline. I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna be an LA movie. We're gonna go through the streets of LA. It'll be cool, great.
We're gonna see landmarks that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
We're gonna see Ghostface in a big city.
And we don't.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No.
But the tease is there.
Yeah.
Tease is there. He gets home, but while he's on his way, the killer's inside the house, and he's using the voice changer, right?
Yeah.
To make him sound like Cotton. So he's like, oh, don't worry, baby, blah, blah. And he's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And she's like, Cotton, stop playing your stab games. So that makes me think, does Cotton dress up like Ghostface and scare her all the time?
He might. It's kind of creepy. It's it's kind of cringe.
A little bit. Don't be wrong. I know Leah Shriver, he made your hottie playlist for Scream.
Yeah, I mean,
Scream 3 hottie, not Scream 2. Scream 2, he was not the hottie.
No, he is. No. Scream 3, he's the hottie. He's my pick for the movie.
Okay. So he is up there with Skeet Ulrich and Timothy Olyphant, I see.
Yes.
Okay. But he gets home, and he's like, oh, babe, don't worry, it's me. And she's like, go fuck yourself. And then they both get killed because Ghostface attacks them and stabs them and stabby.
Yeah, and it's smart on Ghostface's behalf because she thinks that it's Cotton trying to kill her, and, you know, she does a good job beating the shit out of Cotton when he's trying to convince her, you know, it's not me that's making, you know, these threats, it's actually Ghostface.
It really is one of the best kills in the movie. It's the one that feels the most like a Scream thing. It also helps establish that the voice changer is magic.
Yeah, and it was also Liev Schreiber's idea to be killed off in the beginning of the movie, which kind of puts him up there with the opening kill history that we have with the Scream movies, where it's, you know, this really big ornate scene that happens.
It's the scene that sets the tone for the rest of them.
It does, and Liev Schreiber was also, yo, I'm gonna do this scene, but I'm gonna take off my jacket, because I want you to see how ripped I got recently.
Why he got on the Booze Hottie playlist.
And I was just like, ooh, he's filling out that sweater pretty good. I'm like, all right, okay.
Oh, good for him.
But sad to see him go so soon into the movie.
Yeah, and it also goes in with the thing that gets brought up with the trilogy rules that we get in way later in one of the most bullshit scenes in this film. Fuck that scene. But Cotton dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool kill. Cool kill. Interesting. Sets up the tone for the rest of the movie. And then the rest of the movie happens, and I'm like, that opening scene betrayed me.
Yeah, it kind of goes a little downhill from there. I mean, after that, we see Sydney for the first time. Sydney is living out in the middle of nowhere, which is understandable.
Yeah. I love all of Sydney's scenes because it really gets to the heart of the movie, dealing with, like, trauma.
Yeah.
Her dealing with, you know, the traumas of the other films. I like that because getting the psychology of Sydney is the most fascinating part about this.
Yeah.
And it also makes the rest of the movie look, like, really bad in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, also, I want her house.
Just that middle of nowhere ranch.
Yeah, middle of Monterey, California, just tons of mountains, no neighbors. It's nice, but at the same time, yeah, I'd be having some nightmares late at night that, you know, maybe Ghostface is going to come in,
you
or...
see you're the spooky dead mom wandering in
from the
forest.
that scene will forever be creepy to me. It's just it's so haunting the way that she does it.
It's so bad, though.
It's creepy.
I get it. I get it's creepy in the, like, made-for-TV Stephen King creepy, but it is not a well-done scene, all right?
No. So we see Sydney. Everything is, you know, under lock and key at her home, which is understandable because...
Yeah, she does the security pad. And...
Yeah. We see Sydney, and we see that she is working on a women's crisis line.
Yeah.
So she's able to work from home. She goes by a different name on the line. And she sees on TV that Cotton has been killed.
Yeah.
And that's when we have her dad make a cameo in this movie where he's trying to kind of get her to go home to Woodsboro.
Also good for the dad showing back up. I haven't seen him in 2 movies.
Yeah. He makes an appearance. He kind of tries to tell her, you know, you're living as basically a nobody. And she's like, that's kind of the point. I'm trying not to exist because death follows.
Yeah. And I just really like Sydney's, like, the opening scene here and her scene with the dad because it really gets to the heart of her as a character. And that's the thing. Like, we actually get character development for Sydney in this film, and it makes the actual ending of the film, so much better.
Yeah, and we also see reality in Sydney, too, because when she finds out about Cotton's death, she reacts.
Yeah.
It's not like oh my god, you know, then we jump to Hollywood. It's like, no, she's actually terrified.
Yeah, she's like, oh god, it's happening again. And this one, I think she doesn't go to Hollywood. No. But it also means that, man, this plot takes forever to get good. Yeah. So, but we go to Hollywood.
We go to Hollywood.
The audience goes to Hollywood.
Yes.
Because now we see Gale in the saddened state that she is in with her horrible bangs.
Yeah.
Horrible costume.
This past Halloween, she dressed up as Gale Weathers from Scream 3, so she had the fake, you know, baby bangs. And it was like, okay, it's good to see that she can...
take a joke, but
she can take a joke.
Yeah, but yeah. So, and then we see Gale there with her really bad bangs, and she's doing this speech at some, like, journalist thing, and we basically find out she's now a TMZ reporter.
Yeah.
That's basically what she's turned into.
Yeah, basically she was shooting for, what was it, 60 Minutes?
60 Minutes.
She wanted to be the next Diane Sawyer, and then something happens, and she ends up on TMZ. Basically.
And then she finds out, oh, Cotton's dead. Now she's going to go to the set of Stab 3 because, oh, he did it just at a cameo there. I'm going to go there and get the scoop, because I'm Gale Weathers.
Well, that and LAPD, one of the detectives is like, hey, this is happening. It might be related to the murders of the past. We kind of need someone like you in our corner to get the information.
Yeah. But, we get to the stab 3. We get introduced to our cast of bodies. Because they are not characters.
No.
The entirety of everyone involved for the Hollywood section, where they're the actors in the stab movies, or the producers, or whatever, are not characters.
They're body count.
They're all body count. Like, none of the actors have any personality, but with asterisk next to Parker Posey playing...
Gale.
Yeah, who plays Julian, or whatever, who's...
Jurgensen.
Oh,
or
God.
Jorgenstern, or whatever.
Yeah, but she gets to play the Gale Weathers in the stab movies, and Parker Posey's actually really funny in this.
Yeah, I kind of liked her and Courtney Cox's, playing off each other, because, they're constantly fighting.
Yeah.
But then when all hell breaks loose, they're holding hands and running around screaming. So it's like seeing two clones running around.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because the two of them together, there's a bit of comedic element there, but... the entire rest of them, body count, I don't care.
Yeah.
They're also completely forgettable. They have no personality.
Yeah.
Not even, no one does. And then we kind of find out that one of the, the director is kind of weird. But actually, okay. This one I feel comfortable talking about who the killer is, because the killer makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the killer is the director, Roman, which I kind of forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
During the movie, because when he did the reveal, I'm like, who the fuck are you?
It was like, Roman, the director, Scott Foley, which this was actually his first feature film that he starred in, or he appeared in. And it was just kind of like, okay, this is your first feature film, and I think they told him 2 weeks before principal photography was finished. They're like, oh, by the way, you're the killer, right?
He's like, no shit!
Yeah, I think it was an AD or someone else on set, they were like, right? And he was like, what, we have hot dogs today, and they brought in food, and they're like, no man, you're the killer. And he's like, really, that's awesome, but
it's bad. It's bad because the whole movie doesn't care.
That, and this is also the only Scream movie where there's one killer and not two killers,
which makes the movie really confusing.
Yeah,
and
because
really not make sense.
Yeah, because there was originally two killers, and it kind of would have made more sense to have that second killer and who they chose. So I don't know why they went back and they just kept it as one.
It's really confusing. Again, I feel like the worst element here is the script. It's one of those things where as the film progresses from this point, I just stop caring, because they're killing people like they die in the movie, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting, conceit to the film, right? Yeah, it's so meta, they're gonna kill, how they're doing it in the internal movie. But I stopped caring, because I don't care about any of the characters.
You have Jenny McCarthy, make the kind of comedic sentence of, well, the script is always being rewritten. Every day there's a new script. There's a new ending, and it's kind of playing with this movie where there were 3 endings that were shot. And it's also kicking it back to Scream 2, where they had to kind of keep it a secret because it got leaked.
Oh, God.
So I'm like, we're going full meta with just this one sentence.
Yeah, and she's also like, well, I'm just the dumb bimbo that gets killed in the first 2 scenes, and she's the dumb bimbo that gets killed in, her first 2 scenes.
And Jenny McCarthy only has 2 scenes in this movie.
Yes, that's
so it's
the
just
point.
It's okay, we're going round robin again.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna, rattle these off real quick. Okay. So, Jenny McCarthy gets killed. Who gets killed after that? Is that, that's the bodyguard.
Yeah.
Then, bodyguard Crunk, my man.
Also, you know who they considered to be the bodyguard?
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
How badass would that have been?
It would have been bad. Stop with your trivia.
Come on!
Next is Pretty Boy Dewey that gets exploded. That shit's dumb.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think it's just, in the house, right? It's basically the climax?
Yeah, I think that's when we get to the birthday party. And
is there anything in the middle of this movie that you even care about? Anything after Sydney's stuff? Anything other than Sydney's scenes do you care about?
No, because we see Sydney, they keep her away from a good majority of the drama. They keep her in the sheriff's station for a while, and we see her kind of going through what's his name in the movie? It's Patrick Dempsey.
Kincaid.
Oh,
Kincaid.
She goes through, Kincaid's files, and that's when we kind of feel like, well, maybe Kincaid is the killer.
Yeah.
We start kind of,
Because they're doing the thing where, we're going to have the red herring. Anybody can be the killer.
Yes.
And it's like Patrick Dempsey is put up as the killer. Angeline, or Angelica, or whatever her name is.
Who plays Sydney and
Stab. She's also set up to be a possible killer.
And that's actually who the second killer was supposed to be.
That would have made way more sense.
Yeah, she was supposed to be Roman's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be this whole thing where they were still going to keep it where, spoiler, Roman is Sydney's half-brother. And it's this whole vendetta where he's going to kill her because his mom never, paid attention, gave him away. And it was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. You have crazy half-brother and his crazy girlfriend that are just on a killing spree.
Yeah, but
then they decided just to make it...
just Roman, and it's really weird. Again, it's super weird.
Yeah.
But the whole middle of the movie is just things happen to people I don't care about, because Dewey and Gale have pretty much plot armor throughout the whole, middle of the movie, because none of them die.
No.
None of them even get, in danger where you're like, oh man, this is it. In Scream 2, Dewey gets prison shanked.
Oh yeah, he
and
really gets
oh my god,
up.
he's dead. Oh, it's over. And then at the end, he's like, oh, he's still alive. Blah blah blah. And this is okay, they have plot armor. I don't care.
Yeah.
But what I do care about is they do the Randy cameo.
Yes.
Fuck that. Okay, that's some bullshit. You should, if you knew you were gonna make a third one, don't kill Jamie Kennedy.
And then we find out that Randy has a younger sister, which never came up in the first two movies.
And she's only in one scene to give the tape and be like, we miss you in Woodsboro, and leaves. And she deuces out of the universe forever. She does.
Well, possibly not.
Look, I don't care if she's in Scream 5. Scream 5 doesn't exist yet. We're not there yet.
It's not there yet, but yeah, so we have that. Apparently that video that Randy does, they had Jamie Kennedy do 2 or 3 hours worth of material for that, and I was just like, what else could he have said?
Okay, here's my internal... okay, let me grab the tinfoil hat.
Oh, it's on.
It's firmly on. I think that they had Jamie Kennedy there and alright, so we're not sure if we're going to make more of these, so we're going to need you to do a lot of stuff, so we just, one go, right?
Just ramble on,
whatever. And I imagine he had rules for Screams 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He had all these rules, the Weinsteins were oh, we're going to make, Hellraiser numbers of these kind of movies. We're going to make 12 of these fuckers.
Yeah.
So I imagine there are VHS tapes somewhere in the vaults of Hollywood of just Jamie Kennedy just being and this is the rule if you ever get into a septuple trilogy here, all right? If you're in the 7th movie, this does happen, all right? It's usually in those weird, Chinese kung fu movies. So give me a minute. And then he just does a bong rip and just tells us, the rules of those.
And his poor doormate is still outside of the door. Please, Randy, let me in. I want to go in my room.
So cool if they had Timothy Olyphant as, Mickey, and that's who's knocking on the door.
Yeah, that would have been pretty badass.
That would have been way cooler. I would have loved to have seen a Timothy Olyphant, cameo in this.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there.
So we get to see, basically, our original core group, even though Randy has, departed.
On. Yeah.
But, we also get to see, I think one of my favorite parts that's, non-Scream is the cameo of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. They even pointed out, it's wait, are you her? No, nope. Don't look like her.
I guess you're supposed to believe that this is not Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really cool that originally, before Carrie Fisher was approached, they approached Jamie Lee Curtis to do this. And it's how fucking meta would that have been? You have...
That would have been really... Yeah, that would have been a little too meta, because I think, what was it? They did Halloween H2O, right around this time, or Resurrection, which...
Yeah.
Which is probably why she didn't do it. And also, those movies suck ass.
Also,
Halloween... Or Resurrection sucks a lot of ass. H2O has some redeeming qualities.
No, H2O, I love H2O.
But that's another one of those Scream slasher, response kind of movies.
But, the house...
yes, it's from H2O. I read the same IMDb trivia that you did. It's okay.
But come on, it's so cool. It's the same house that's used as a school.
I don't care. It's just being meta.
Just care. But yeah, it's the same, the house, the school are the same thing, so it kind of ties it to Halloween in a way.
Yeah. I mean, that is the whole point, because this series started as a meta-commentary on slashers, but really it was a meta-commentary on the tropes Halloween created.
Yeah.
And I do think if they had Jamie Lee Curtis in, that would have been the layers of meta on top of each other, that would have been really interesting. Because, like, again, this movie hits self-parody.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised they tried to get Jamie Lee Curtis in here. And I'm, like, not surprised that Roger Corman has a cameo in this.
Yeah.
And it's just... And it's also the other thing where it's like, Jay and Silent Bob showing up, I have a problem with it because it breaks the reality of the universe. But this literally being a parody film of its own franchise, it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's Hollywood. It's what everyone expects, that there is just stars everywhere. And it's like, in this movie, there's a ton of stars. And it's just like, whoa, you're in this?
Why are you?
It's like, what?
Them being in it doesn't make it good. It just makes it confusing. I mean, it's neat, but whatever. This just... The whole middle of the movie is just so benign and boring and dull. Because you don't care about anybody.
Well, I was actually taking it to the Carrie Fisher part, because not only a cool cameo, because fuck yeah, Carrie Fisher, I love her. Mm-hmm. Also, we learn more about Sydney's mom, Maureen Prescott, an actress, a model, and was doing like sci-fi and horror movies. And yeah, she ends up getting...
like, she was somebody who went to Hollywood with the bright-eyed ideas of becoming the starlet, and she met a very harsh and cruel...
person
business that chewed her up and spat her out, and that's kind of really brings it back to the beginning of Maureen's character and why she seems so, like, loose and had this, like, inner trauma with her. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting development of her character, but it also makes Maureen the villain of this franchise.
Yeah, because even in the beginning, when we see Sydney after Cotton's, passed, and she's talking to her dad, she blames her mom. She finally says, if she wasn't out there doing the things that she was doing, none of this would ever have happened. It's true. And it's, why was she filled with so many secrets? I don't feel like I even know my own mother. Well, and it's just kind of like, yeah, and we kind of get to, why there's so many secrets, and it's understandable. This horrible thing happens to you when you're trying to just make a career for yourself. It's like, you really don't feel like you could go tell people, I'm the way I am because this happened.
Well, for these films, you caught this, right? Every Scream film revolves around the fact that Maureen slept with somebody that was not her husband, right?
Every single one. We have it in the first movie where Billy is pissed off that her mom had an affair with his dad. The second movie, it's Billy's mom that's pissed off that her mom had an affair with her husband and she killed, her son. And it's just this movie, it's kind of coming full circle to... Oh,
this is why Maureen was so
promiscuous.
Her way. Yeah. And it is a thing where, that develops her character, that develops somebody we've never seen, like, actually perform in the films.
No, and we actually kind of see the murder scene for Maureen, because it's never shown in the first movie. We only know that she has, been killed, and ultimately it's Billy and Stu that are the ones that kill Maureen first. She's the first victim. But we actually see it in the set in the third movie, in the stab movies, where, wow, we're going to, flashbacks of Maureen's death. We're going to flashbacks of this, that.
Which... Another thing, the stab movies are supposed to be shit, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be terrible.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, because as they're talking about it in universe, I'm like, this sounds like so cliche bad, but intentional. It's people poking fun at slasher movies.
Yeah, and even the cast in the third stab movie, they're talking about how Tori Spelling and David Schwimmer are not coming back, so it's just kind of like they're finding anybody that they can to just kind of fill in the roles of these people. And that's why Gale Weathers makes, a kind of a big to-do about Dewey's counterpart in the movie, because he's this tall, good-looking guy, and she's like, that's supposed to be you, and it turns into a joke. Because it's like, yeah, none of these people give me the Sydney vibe, the Gale... Well, I take that back. Because Parker Posey is a good Gale impersonator. She's in it to win it.
Parker Posey is definitely the one doing the most work in this, as to try and be meta funny. I think Parker Posey's the only one who knows what kind of movie she's in.
Yeah.
By far. She's the only one who knows this is supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah, and fake Sydney, finally makes the revelation during the climax that she slept with John Milton to get her role.
Which is reflective of what Maureen did, and I think
and
she would have been better
of,
as a killer than Roman, because she makes sense, because she has theme and motive.
I mean, we see her at one point with the mask, with one of the fake knives. It's like, it makes sense to kind of paint her as a villain, and I think that's what they were doing up towards the end of the movie, and then they just decided, no, we're going to scrap it and kill her instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, going back to what you were saying about the set, where they're reenacting Maureen's death and all that stuff.
They've rebuilt Sydney's house, Stu's house.
They rebuilt the entire Woodsboro, basically the exact from the one from the movie. And it's the best scene in the film because we have Sydney going in, and it's really reflective of her and her trauma and her experiences in the rest of the franchise. And it takes us all back to the first film, and it really does get to the point that, to her, these are not fun slasher movies. These are very traumatic and horrible things that have happened to her that she has to, like, rise above. It builds into her character and her story. Yeah. And it also is interesting because they literally do, like, the Scream, Ghostface attack from the first movie again. But she's like, oh, I'm prepared for this now. I can get the upper hand. I'm not defenseless anymore. And it really is a good build-up to what's going to happen later on in the movie. And then, the cop's like, oh, there's no killer here. And she's like, he was in Westboro. I was like, that's a film set, Sydney. And I'm like, go fuck yourself, Detective Pretty Eyes.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Or Pretty Eyes, that works.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah,
because,
but...
like, they just got finished scraping bodies out of, like, 3 other places. Just believe her, for God's sake.
Yeah, and... This was Wes Craven's idea for the scene because he wanted to revisit Woodsboro without actually going back. So he was like, yeah, we will front the money to rebuild the sets, which I think is genius. It's like, if you're going to do a Hollywood version of this movie, have the sets so we could have Sydney basically go back, because I think it's, under assumption, this is her first time actually going home while not really going home.
It's also another thing where I know Wes Craven did it and it wasn't in the script. Because it was one of those things where they're like, do you want us to actually build the insides? And he was like, yeah, we're going to use them. Yeah. And they were like, it's not in the script. He's like, no, we're going to use them.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see her because she walks out of Stu's house and she kind of walks around and she goes to see, where she found Tatum, dead in the garage door. And it's just, you just see her reliving the trauma of that one night. Yeah. And it's powerful as the survivor, just seeing her relive that past trauma and then getting attacked and running through her own childhood home. I mean, I love the part where she sits on her bed as she's, rehabbing the conversation with Billy.
The voiceover's a little cheesy. I'll say the voiceover's cheesy, but I'm like, you know what? This movie is kind of cheesy, and we already saw Ghost Maureen, so fine. I'll give you the benefit here.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see.
We're gonna have a whole section talking about suspension of disbelief in this movie, by the way. Oh God.
But it's interesting to see kind of where her mind is at. And it's like she's, reliving that conversation, the whole thing with locking the 2 doors back to back. And you're right, she does kick ass in this movie. It's fear, but she's going to put up a fight.
Yeah. And it is good. Again, going back to what I keep saying, all the Sydney scenes are good. Yeah. It's the scenes without her that are really bad. Yeah. And another one that's pretty... Okay, in Randy's epitaph, where he tells them the rules of the third movie, he's like, look, in case this happens again, your killer's going to be supernatural, he'll be forced, you got to just cut his head off and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And... we have a magical killer now. Yes. After, and he's also able to blow up houses. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, when did he sneak in there and turn on the gas?
First of all, well, I'll lay the scene out. So this is actually, I don't know if it's before or after Sydney's attack.
I think it's before.
Yeah, okay, it's a little bit before. It's probably like, I don't know, 1 or 2 scenes before this. So... we have all the actors for the stab movies, and Dewy and Gale and the bodyguard. They're all at the fancy manor.
Yeah,
right?
The only people missing are the director and Sydney.
Yeah, and also the producers or whatever. But they're all there. And the bodyguard gets attacked, the killer calls, and they're like, oh, I'm, inside the house or outside or blah, blah, blah. So they're all hiding outside, or they're out by the pool.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, we don't want the killer to sneak up on us because we don't want to play into his trap.
Well, it's progressed because the killer's not calling, he's sending faxes.
Yes, and that's what he's saying. He's like, if you want to live, you gotta find the fax machine. And they're like, oh god. They go to the fax machine, and it's reading out pages and all this other shit. And the one guy is like, I gotta know what happens. I gotta know if I live. And he runs in by himself and takes the page, and he's trying to read it, even though they were perfectly able to read it
in the dark,
dark moments ago. He's like, I can't read it. He goes into the kitchen, and he finds a lighter and flicks it, and he's like, I'll give mercy to whoever smells the gas. Oh no. And he looks at the camera. Oh no, it doesn't have, and he explodes. The whole house explodes in like a giant, Michael Bay explosion.
But they make sure to show you that he explodes into a million pieces too.
Yes, and everybody gets like, oh no, and they got thrown down the hill, and it's this big thing. But how much? Okay, Dean's logic hole. Okay. Welcome. It's nice. Kick your shoes off, take a seat. The logic hole here is, so how long was the gas on? Because that has to have been a lot of gas to blow up an entire house. Yeah. Everybody in there should have probably passed out from, like, carbon monoxide poisoning, gas poisoning, something. They would have noticed.
But the front door was always open.
Well, other thing, front door's always open. The gas would have dissipated out. Also, he lit that lighter, and he was able to read everything.
And then
explode. And that's the thing. When you light a lighter in a room full of gas, you know what's happening very quickly.
But this is Hollywood. They need him to read the script.
And it also blows up the entire house.
Oh, yeah.
From the foundation up. Like, benefit of the doubt, I could say maybe he snuck in, he closed up the kitchen door, laid whatever towels, and he just, like, turned the gas on in the kitchen.
But then we would have seen them trip over towels getting into the kitchen.
Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe not even, like, towels, but I could benefit of the doubt if the kitchen was closed up and sealed off, and he was like, I'm just doing it so whoever goes in the kitchen and lights this lighter I've conveniently set here, instead of taking it outside, or going next to the window, or just being able to read in a dimly lit room.
Because he's able to get out and get down to the street where everyone rolls down, after the explosion.
He knows exactly where Gale's going, somehow. Yeah. He's able to sneak up on her and also get shot 5 times in the chest and disappear without a trace.
And then still leave a picture of Maureen.
Again.
It's very Wizard of Oz when you see the feet roll up under the house. It's just like, oh, suddenly here's a picture of Sydney's mom.
Yeah, and it's like, did you have it with you? Like, were you expecting to be able to get the jump on somebody?
Did no one hear you, pull the paper out of your pocket and then just, voila, leave the picture there?
And the other thing, he's able to kill the bodyguard. Because he kills the bodyguard, like, right before this, but the bodyguard's, like, able to, like, still make it to the house and all that stuff. So the timeline is, like, so he stabs the shit out of Crunk.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right.
R.I.P. Crunk.
R.I.P., He kills Crunk, and then he's like, all right, now I gotta sneak into the house, get that ready, and then have the fax machine ready. That's somewhere else that I'd be able to fax these things to you people.
Yeah.
And also hoof it downhill and
hide behind this car and wait for you guys.
And then I'll be able to get you.
And
or
then,
somebody else. And I can get a 2 for the night.
And then get shot in the chest 5 times and be able to run away.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where this is another proof that, serial killers equal magic.
That, and also it feels like this is how we have 2 Ghostface. And they make a whole thing with Angelina after they roll down the hill. How did she end up so far away from the rest of everybody that jumped and fell down the hill? Yeah,
she is the Derek of this movie. They're trying really hard to make Angelina the villain, right? Or make her the red herring. And it's heavy-handed. That's a lot of the movie. It's kind of heavy-handed in like the red herring sections. And it's also just it really does feel like this was a written on the day kind of movie. But neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. Because I believe after this, well, going a little out of order in the second half, because we're just talking about shit that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. But after this, where are you looking to go? Do we finally just get to the birthday party? Or to the grand reveal of Maureen's mystery that's not a mystery because you don't care about the mystery.
No, I think we gotta jump to the birthday because that's where everything happens.
That's where the last 45 minutes of this movie is.
That's where the last 45 minutes are. It's, the party's being held at John Milton's house, who is a producer. Big Hollywood lavish house that he lives in. And the interior of the house, and I think maybe like the secret room, kind of reminded me of Sunset Boulevard. Yeah,
it's definitely going for a vibe. Mm-hmm. It's going for that old Hollywood money kind of vibe. And they point out, oh, he's been here since the 70s, man. This was the place to be, man.
He had, private screenings in his screening room. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice house, but all hell is about to break loose.
Yeah, and when hell does break loose, it's, a party. Everybody's splitting up to go search for the secret screening room.
But it's a party with only, 5 people there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd for a big Hollywood birthday party.
Yeah, and I guess it's supposed to be a thing where, Roman's having a pity party, right? Yeah. And it's like, wait, Milton's not there. It's his house.
Why isn't he here? How did you get in?
Also, why is Roman already blasted?
Yeah.
I don't know the timeline of how long they've been in the house, but it looks like he's pounding back full bottles of champagne.
And just, oh, woe is me, they canceled my movie, they did this, and it's just like, if you know that Roman is the killer, it's like, dude, you sacked your own movie.
Yeah. And now, Roman as the killer in this whole build-up, right? So, he goes off, they're splitting up, they're looking for stuff. He goes down to the basement, Gale and Dewy are like, oh, there's something wrong, he tries to find everybody, and Gale finds Roman in the basement.
Yeah.
Right? And I noticed this. Gale checks his pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Confirms he is dead.
Yeah.
How? Because we know he's not.
I don't know.
And, okay, besides that, so they run out, or Gale and Julian, whatever, they run out and they meet up Dewy, but then, hell breaks loose, Ghostface appears, and, Angelina gets killed, Tyson gets killed, Dewy gets cut up, because that's what happens in every one of these movies. Parker Posey gets shot gets killed.
She gets stabbed in the back and in the stomach. And
Dewey's like, watch out, Gale. And he tries to shoot out the two-way mirrors to find her. And I'm like, you just shoot out the first one and you just kind of walk in, right? It's over.
I would think so. But he's like, no, I'm going to shoot out all these windows. Also, one thing about this house that I liked was all the secret passages.
Which is why? Why are there why does he have a Scooby-Doo mansion?
Because this is the Scooby-Doo version of Scream.
That's kind of a good way to put it.
Yeah, so I like the secret passages. They kind of, they say it early on that it's probably tied to Prohibition. It's an old house.
Something.
Yeah, something. So I thought that was kind of a cool element, trying to find, where to go in this house. And it makes sense for Ghostface, because he should know where the secret passages are, so he's able to appear in one spot and end up in another.
Why does he know about the secret passages, though?
I mean,
Magic? Go with magic.
I was thinking Milton was his dad.
I don't know if that's never established.
It's never established, but I always thought that there was something there.
Right. I guess that's the implication.
Yeah.
Or he's the one that, got Maureen to the party and she was taken advantage of and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. But I'm like, Roman's motivation is so weird. Well, I guess it's not. I just don't care. Because I don't care about Roman as a character.
No, he's the first, Timothy Olyphant in the previous movie wasn't tied to Sydney's past. Mrs. Loomis was. So, Roman's really the first one that there's really no connection at all. Sydney doesn't know him. This is the first time they're meeting.
They've only ever met once he's the killer, actually. Yeah, we'll just talk about the final scene. Yeah. Or, the villain reveal and monologuing and all that stuff.
Because there's always a monologue.
There's always a monologue, and I'm always like, you've won, sir. Just do the thing. Well, Roman reveals himself to be the killer, and he's like, my motivation is, Maureen was my mother, and she abandoned me, and when I found her, she denied me, so I made my movie, and I showed Billy my movie, and he didn't like that, and I convinced him to kill your mother. I am the brain, behind all this. I'm the puppet master.
I convinced him to get a second killer so that he could frame the killing on that one. So I was like, he had his patsy. What we had said, he picked Stu to kind of be the fall guy.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, okay, Roman retroactively being the mastermind behind all the Scream 1 and by extension Scream 2. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And that kind of goes in with the trilogy rule that Randy was talking about, where, the past will come back to bite you in the ass.
But from a different angle.
Yeah, from a different angle. But the problem is this angle sucks because it was never hinted at. Roman was a non-character for the entirety of the film.
And Billy never said, we've had help or, from an anonymous source or anything. It was just him and Stu were doing all of this. And it's like, I kind of liked that it was just so personal in that way. Right here, it's just like the universe feels like it's just expanded way too far.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where a good example of that. So like the Michael Myers, or I guess the Friday movies, the Friday 13th movies.
Yeah.
That the series expands, Jason gets more supernatural and weird and kooky as the series progresses.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Like all those, I'm like, okay, at least it's a slow burn. It's a slow boil of it being completely ridiculous. Yeah.
Once we get to Jason X, Jason in Space, I'm like, okay, at this point, he is a supernatural zombie, and he started as a disabled kid who drowned.
Yeah.
But we've had that slow burn over 10 movies. Then I'm like, okay, benefit of the doubt, this is ridiculous, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we're going from a pretty grounded first movie. The first movie, for the most part, is a pretty grounded, whodunit slasher flick. The second one, it's having a little bit more fun with it. It's a little bit more meta, but it's, for the most part, a pretty grounded, fun,
more creative kills.
More creative slasher flick. The third one is okay, so now we have this whole deep lore backstory that we're just going to throw at the audience. Maureen was an actress. Mm-hmm. Also, she had an illegitimate kid. Also, this is her son. Also, he's also a psychopath that killed her. Also, he's the reason for Billy and Stu. Mm-hmm. And also, he's he's the mastermind. He's also magic. And he also has this bulletproof vest that makes him impervious to getting shot any time before the climax of the movie.
That, and it's the whole yin and yang of having Sydney and Roman, good versus evil.
It escalated really quickly.
Yeah.
If it was a thing where, we find out that Roman is her half-brother earlier in the movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. Or if we just established that, Maureen got pregnant.
Yeah.
And we're like, that must have been Sydney. What if that was the mystery they unsolved, halfway through the movie, right?
That her dad is actually not her dad.
Yeah. Or, Gale and Julia, they find out it's wait, when, Reynolds left, or when Maureen left Hollywood, she was pregnant. Mm-hmm. When did she meet, Sydney's dad?
Yeah.
They met, right after she got back. That's Sydney's baby. Sydney is the illegitimate baby. But she's no, it's Roman, because she could have had Roman the year after, wherever, yada, yada, yada. I'm that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Establish that she was pregnant in Hollywood. Cool. But having Roman be the half-brother is just weird, and having it only be one killer is weird.
Yeah. It really needed the two killers.
Yeah, it's just the thing. Roman being the killer is just... It just irks me the wrong way. I don't know. Your thoughts on Roman the killer. Roman the director.
Roman the half-brother.
Roman the half-brother. Roman the man who's only in 15 minutes of the movie, and 10 of it are in the final scene.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. I mean, if you want to establish that she does have a half-brother, they could have played it where they were getting to know each other, but he was also trying to get her comfortable, and then ultimately kill her because he's got mommy issues. And it's just kind of weird, because it goes, from, hey, look at this film I made about our mom, cheating with different guys, and then I'm gonna kill you. It's just, it's 0 to 100.
What if it was a thing where the first half of the movie, Dewey's figuring out who's this person who keeps trying to find out where Sid is, and they find out it's Roman. He's the one who's trying to find out, you're the killer, and he's like, no, I'm her brother. And, like, that's the midpoint reveal.
Yeah, so...
And then it's, like, the whole other half of the movie is the fallout of that. And then the final twist is he's the killer. That might have been a thing where it had been a little bit too, like, wonky.
Well,
but,
there's also an error there, too, because, you know, Roman's giving his monologue, and he's talking about how he went to Woodsboro and, you know, made his little film about, you know, Mommy Dearest. Mm. And it goes back to when Dewey and Gale are having their coffee date, and he tells her, you know, off the record, a woman, you know, was calling the station asking for Sydney's file for a movie, and we told her no, and then there was a break-in in the file room, and I guess they were there to take Sydney's file, but Dewey had, you know, the right of mind to take the file home and protect it. And it's like, well, that would have gone with Angelina being the second killer.
Yeah.
You have Roman who comes up with this idea. You have Angelina pretending to be, you know, his assistant or whatever and asking for this for the movie. So it's like, so we kind of had almost the two killers, and they were just like, oh yeah, I forgot we said that in that one scene. Because it's like...
Here's something that could have been like another like crazy weird twist that obviously was never gonna fucking happen.
Yeah.
But in my mind canon, it would have been interesting. So what if Sid was the killer? Hear me out here.
Yeah.
So we have the whole first part of the movie where Kincaid is like, where's Sydney?
Yeah.
Where's Sydney? And he's really cagey about why they want to find Sydney. Dewey says, I don't know. Gale's like, no. They're protecting her, right?
Yeah.
What if it was a thing where Sydney never goes to the police and they, like, you know, Dewey and Gale, they meet with Sydney, you know, at her home, or they meet somewhere and they're just like, oh God, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. I think they're after me again. And the final grand reveal when Kincaid arrives, they're, you know, gun pointed at Sydney, and Dewey and Gale are like, don't shoot. And he reveals, we've been looking for Sydney because we found her prints on the knife from Cotton Weary's apartment. And then, you know, Sydney kills him. And then it's a thing where, oh, Sydney's the new killer, right? And it's the big twist. And now she's going to kill Gale and Dewey to rid herself of the memories of Woodsboro.
Yeah, I mean, that
would have also fucked with the trauma angle, but...
It would have, but, you know, it's understandable. It's like, yeah, you know, they keep making movies about your past, and it's just getting even more crazy, because when it's the first movie that we see in Scream 2, when they're showing, like, the Casey Becker scene, it's just, like, so over-dramatized. It's like, yeah, you could see it where it's just, you know, pushing her and irking her. It's like, you know, this isn't how the story went. Why do I have to see, you know, my life being showed on the big screen over and over? So, yeah, you could see her kind of like, you know what, I'm going to stop this from happening. Nail in the coffin. But Sydney's the good guy.
I know Sydney's the good guy. It's just, that's why I said that's the like, ooh, in my fancy mind palace where franchising didn't matter in cinema.
Yeah,
it would have been an interesting thing.
Or they could have made it where Kincaid was the killer, because he talks about how he grew up on, you know, the sound stages, and that's why he's part of this investigation.
He's the Phantom of the Scream films.
Exactly. You know, he's there, he's luring her in, trying to, you know, get her comfortable, and then ultimately kills her because he's just a fanboy of this investigation.
Yeah, it's the thing where it's like Kincaid and Angela are the red herrings that are well established in the movie as being the red herring. So, you know, and I understand why they're doing Roman is because, oh, he's the person you would never expect.
Well, but he's also not there a lot because the police take him to interview him, and he's gone for a good majority of the movie. Yeah,
and then when he comes back, he's like, oh, you know, they were interrogating me, all this other stuff. And it's the implication that Roman is the character that it couldn't possibly be because of how the logic of the world would work, right? Because, okay, they try so hard to make it so it can't be him.
Yeah.
You know, oh, he's in police lockup. Oh, they traced the phone that we heard his voice when Sarah was killed.
Yeah.
Oh, but it couldn't have been because we've already established the voice change manipulator. And then it's like, oh, well, this, that, and the other thing. And then we see him die. And then it's like, or we don't see him get killed. We just see the aftermath. And it's like, oh, that's what happened. And it's like all this stuff that's established, it couldn't possibly be him.
Yeah.
And then the twist ending of, no, it was him. And I'm like, you did the entire movie laying groundwork that it couldn't be him. And yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with like, I guess in like Scream 2 with like Mickey and Mrs. Loomis, there was actually groundwork laid out. So they could be more plausible as the killer. I still say the motive is some bullshit. But,
I mean, I like that twist, but I like that they had them hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, the hidden in plain sight, you know. Like, Mrs. Loomis is in a lot of the movie, in little bits. Mickey, yeah, he disappears for, like, the last little half of the movie, but you remember him as a character.
Yeah, it's never like, oh, who is this person? You know, who is Debbie Salt? It's like, no, she has been there in almost every other scene, so it's not like this huge surprise at the end where it's just, oh, haha, it's been me that's, you know, been pulling the strings in this movie. It's just like,
and
it's just like, really? Roman's the killer?
And that's the problem, because Roman as the killer is weak, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, Sydney kicks his ass.
I mean, I love that fight.
I mean, they're going, you know, punch for punch, you know, she pulls a chair. It's just like, holy shit, this is a fight.
Oh, so crazy part about this fight, and
I already know where you're going.
Weird homage to the first film. Mm-hmm. You remember in the first film where Sydney comes out with the umbrella and she stabs Skeet Ulrich? And since Skeet Ulrich had like heart surgery, right? He had like this little wire on a nerve in his chest, and she like dinged it between the pads.
Well, that was Sydney's stunt actress that did that. But in this movie,
Sydney was like, I got this, and comes up behind the bar with an ice pick and is going to stab Roman in the back. Now, the actor playing Roman,
Scott Foley,
he's wearing like full padding underneath, and they're just like, okay, she's gonna hit you with this, but this ice pick, it's, you know, it's dulled out, it's fine. She's gonna hit the pads, gonna hit, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And she, little too high, little off to the wrong side, and just drives this ice pick 4 inches into his back.
Yeah.
That scream was real.
It was a real scream. Missed the padding by so little, and
it was
just
like less than an inch, right?
And I mean, you could see it when you watch it. It's like, I didn't know that fact before, and after reading it, I watched the scene and I was like, oh yeah, that's genuine. That's somebody that's hurt.
It also explains why the moment after that the fight is over, Roman is just on the ground. I can imagine Scott Foley got stabbed in the back and they were like, look, I'm sorry, we got you in the meds, whatever, but we got to film the rest of the fight scene. He's like, nah, Dick. Nah, we're filming my death shot right now. I'm lying on the ground. It's over.
And it's like, you have that scene as he's dying, and she takes his hand to kind of like, you're not dying alone.
Yeah, it's like, we're family, man. You know,
and
Fast and the Furious. Family.
For the family.
For the family. We'll drink some Coronas when I see you again.
For family.
For family.
And then, you know, he dies, and she's just kind of like, yeah, give me my hand back.
And shoots him in the head after he gets up to run at her again.
Who is it?
Dewey.
Dewey
does it.
Dewey, he's the... Was it Dewey? He says, you know, hey, isn't it, you know, they always, you know, come back or something.
They're magic and shit.
And then he does, and he goes about, you know, emptying his clip into his chest, and Sydney's just like, head. Shoot him in the head. Shoot him. And he's like, what? In the head. And, you know, finally shoots him and takes him down.
It's so dumb. Also, bulletproof vests don't work like that. You can't unload a full, like, magazine in there and they'll get all of them.
And, I mean, when Sydney kills him, she manages to stab him in the heart, which...
Should probably kill him.
Well, that, and it's like, wouldn't your heart be covered by the bulletproof vest? So it's like, I don't know if a blade would be able to penetrate a bulletproof vest, or...
Yeah, it depends on the vest, but it's shown in the movie that it's through.
Yeah, it goes through.
It's one of those things where the climax of the movie is, like, really bad, because it's so... It's... All the kills leading up to it and all that stuff is like, oh, it's really generic, just boilerplate slasher stuff.
Yeah.
And then the reveal is really lame, weak killer reveal that's like, well, that doesn't make any sense according to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the final fight, though, interesting and is like cool, and they are beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
But... You know, it's just... lackluster, right?
That's what it's like having siblings. Sometimes you guys beat the shit out of each other. It happens. And it's brand new information, so it's like, we gotta really kick the shit out of each other to make up for lost time. But...
We finally get to the real ending of the movie, which is probably the most redeeming quality of this film.
Yeah. It's, you know, we finally have a happy ending. Dewey proposes to Gale.
It's established that Officer Pretty Eyes... Kincaid. Officer Perfect Hair Forever.
Yes.
Is gonna be dating Sydney or whatever. Like, that's the implication.
Yeah. Well, which is interesting because earlier in the movie when she shows up at the precinct for the first time, she's wearing the letters that Derek gave her.
I liked that. That was a cool little nod to the other films.
Yeah, because this movie is 2 years after Scream 2, so it's like, we're going by twos.
Man,
so
that timeline is rough.
Yeah, so this is 2 years later, so she's still wearing her letters, so she's still, she's still hung up on Derek, because Derek was very important to her. She let him in after a long time of kind of like not really trusting anybody, only to have him taken away. But I like that we got to see the letters again. The climax of the movie, she's wearing the green shirt with a brown jacket, which is a kickback to Scream 2 when she's wearing the brown leather jacket and the green shirt underneath it. Mm-hmm. So it's like we kind of see that same Sydney is still there. And we get to see happy Sydney at the end of this movie.
When she leaves the door open and she's like, she feels safe.
Yeah, the door kind of opens with the wind, and it's not like in these movies where the door opens by itself. Ghostface is going to come running through a window or just appear somewhere else. You just kind of see that look on her face like, it's all right,
I got this.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm surrounded with friends. I'm good.
And I'm like, that's a really nice ending to her arc of like trauma, PTSD, all the stuff that happened in her life. She's been these 3 movies is about a girl dealing with the trauma of her mother being killed.
Yeah.
Of the loss of her mother. And it is a really beautiful, nice little cherry on top of this, like, not so good movie, but it's a pretty good ending to, like, the franchise.
Yeah.
Because this was the franchise for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think it was about 10 years before Scream 4 came out.
Yeah.
So we have a big time jump in between this movie and Scream 4.
Yeah. I guess this movie as a whole,
mm-hmm.
how are you feeling about it?
It's more just a movie. I don't set out to watch it like, oh, you know what? I really want to watch Scream 3. I haven't seen that in a while. It's more, I'm going to marathon the entire franchise, so of course I'm going to watch Scream 3.
Yeah, it's one of those things you feel obligated to watch as a Scream fan more than a desire to watch.
It's like you have to, because otherwise you start to forget information if you start skipping things. It kind of helps to, move you along from each movie. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this little piece. I forgot about that. So it's a fun movie. It's got a lot of humor in it, more than the first 2 movies.
To, I believe, its detriment. I don't want to sound mean, but this movie, it's trying to be funny, it's trying to be a parody, it's trying to be goofy, and it's not very funny. It's not, like, the kills aren't very interesting. They're pretty, they don't have a lot of bite to them. Now, there's a lot of cool character stuff going on in here.
Yeah.
I think that's, like, actually the best part of the movie is Sydney's character arc of the film.
Yeah, that's what I enjoyed the most.
And I think there are actually good themes in here, in more than the metatextual pastiche that Williamson was doing in 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
This one feels like, okay, no, we have a theme, and that's like how the Hollywood system chews up young actresses and spits them out, and how they deal with their trauma. Which I will say is an admirable thing, and it's also, in hindsight, really weird that Lee Harvey Weinstein was the producer on this.
Yeah.
Can I get a yikes from the audience?
Oh, yikes.
Yikes. Yeah.
It's just like, how do you have a movie in your company like this that's, voicing this very important thing that's happening in Hollywood?
This is Me Too before Me Too.
Exactly. And then it's sitting there and your conscience doesn't do anything. You continue harassing and doing god-awful things to more actresses for years until he just finally got caught. What was it? Like maybe 2-3 years ago?
I think it's 2016, when he got arrested. Well, that's the crazy thing. Is I'm wondering what the logic of this film was in its production phasing.
Yeah.
Cuz the script's being changed all the time. So I'm imagining, the producers didn't get a chance to see a lot of it.
Yeah.
Or when they did see it, they were like, "Okay, well, we just need to make money off of it."
Yeah.
And it might be another thing where it's like the theming of it's just over your head.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, I feel like this movie's saying a lot, and I do appreciate that it's trying. It's just execution is just not there.
Yeah.
And okay, Scream 1 I liked because it's just like down the middle a really good, smart slasher film that actually can say things about the tropes and the metatextual conversation of the slasher genre.
Well, it's also a simple story, too.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
It's a revenge story. It's not like when we get to 3, where it's just there's so many strings and there's so many different tropes going on, and it's just like, no, it's like, keep it simple where it's, this person is pissed off and they're gonna take all the blame on you.
Yeah, and that's what's happening in Scream 2.
Mm-hmm.
Scream 2, really fun movie,
mm-hmm.
has a lot going for it. I have issues with pretty much just like the beginning because I find it kind of like off-putting, and the ending because it's just the motivations for the killers is just like, oh well, fuck you.
Yeah.
But everything else, it's like, no, it's a fun little slasher flick. But this one, it's like, oh, it's trying to say a lot, but it just can't get it across really well.
Yeah, there's tons of messages they're trying to fit into the 2-hour mark of this movie.
Yeah, but overall, your thought? Overall, what do you give this out of 5?
I'd give it a 3.
You give it a 3?
Yeah.
3 for 3? I gave Scream 2, I think, a 2.5. I can give this a 2. It's not great by any means.
It's not great, but it entertains me. It's part of the franchise, so I love this franchise, so I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. As a Scream fan, it's a 3 out of 5 for you.
Yeah, it's a 3 out of 5 for me.
Me as a non-Scream fan, I'm a firm 2.
Yeah, and it takes us to Scream 4.
It does.
Which is one of my favorite Scream movies.
Really?
Yes, I really enjoy Scream 4.
Ooh, okay. I don't think I've seen Scream 4. We're slowly getting to the movies where Dean has no context of.
I mean, I'm kind of scared about you watching Scream 4, because you might come back and be like, oh, this was terrible. It's so meta.
Well, I don't mind it being meta. Like, Scream 1 and Scream 2, my issues with Scream 2 of it being like, oh god, it's so meta. Now watching Scream 3, I'm like, oh no, it makes me appreciate Scream 2 far more.
Exactly.
Scream 2 was a subtle hand in an artist's brushstroke, while Scream 3 is like, yo, wanna go paintballing this weekend? Like, oh my god, the meta was so heavy-handed, it was not well done in Scream 3.
That's why, I'm just letting you know, Scream 4 is going to be meta. It's going to be more modern, where we tie in...
It's a Scream movie.
It's a Scream movie. We're tying in internet and pop culture.
How dated does this get? I just need to know.
No, it's more modern, because we're dealing with...
If one of them says, YOLO, Chief, let's get these boomers, yo, that's going to be dated. But we're going to get to that next week.
I mean, that's more of a sentence that you would say.
Don't worry about it. You know, fucking YOLO.
I mean, who calls people Chief anymore?
Don't worry about it. Well, where can they find this next week, Chief?
Okay, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can listen to us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're also on YouTube.
We are. You can find us on our YouTube channel, In the Frame. That's right, In the Frame on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, whatever you would like. We always release new stuff every week. Come check it out.
Yeah, and if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Film Club Podcast.
And with that, Boo, any last words?
We'll see you next week at The Film Club.
And have a great week, everybody.